All right, welcome everyone on this evening. We are so lucky to have Isobella Smith with us this evening, and she's going to be presenting on her work, Eating for Health and Nutrition. So this is a great opportunity for a HIA webinar or HIA and for Isobella to present in our webinar program. I'm Peter Craig. I'll be your host for this evening. I'm from HEIA ACT. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us this evening. I'm coming from the land of the Ngunnawal people here in Canberra, and Isobella joins us from the lands of the Gubbi Gubbi people, and Isobella's on the Sunshine Coast. So a little bit on Isobella. She is a recent O'Malley Trust Scholar. Tonight, she will present her research on physical and mental performance, including the factors that affect performance and the pyramid of nutrition priorities. And while her study focused on females aged 17 to 19 years, the insights can be extended to individuals of all ages. Isobella will also discuss simple strategies for determining the right balance of repair and build foods, fuel foods, and filling and bulk foods. So today's session is being recorded, so that'll enable you to listen back later and for other members to listen in. So if you've got questions, feel free to type them in the chat function as we're going. Isobella will present and then we'll have time for questions at the end, but I'll also be able to unmute you. So if you'd like to ask your question, I can unmute you and you can ask yourself, Isobella, your question. So just let me know through the chat function. So I'll now hand over to Isobella for your presentation. So thanks so much.
Thanks so much for that, Peter. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's webinar, Eating for Health and Nutrition. Thank you all for taking the time out of your evening. So let's get started. An outline of this presentation, we're going to run through some general healthy eating principles, our macronutrients, some key micronutrients, and then, as Peter mentioned, finishing it off with a Q&A. A little bit about me. I'm originally from Tasmania, and in 2022, I moved to the Sunshine Coast to continue my Bachelor of Nutrition degree at the University of Sunshine Coast, or UniSC. In my final year of my bachelor's degree, we had a placement opportunity, which I was fortunate enough to do with the NRL Dolphins team. And I worked alongside their sports dietitian, the NRL, the boys, and also their performance team. The end of last year, I completed my degree at UniSC, and as of this Thursday, I'm about to commence my Masters of Sports Dietetics. Starting off with the Australian Dietary Guidelines. So there are 5 key guidelines, and they remind us to enjoy a variety of nutritious foods from the 5 food groups: fruits, vegetables, grains, lean meats or alternatives, and dairy alternatives. So on the bottom right of the pie chart graphic, we have our sometimes foods. So these are foods typically high in added sugars, saturated fats, salts, and alcohol. For adults, the guidelines recommend between 5 and 6 serves of vegetables, 2 serves of fruit, between 3 to 6 serves of grains, up to 4 serves of dairy, and 2 to 3 serves of lean meats. And in that final column, that's our discretionary items. And this can range between 0 to 3 serves per day. And this depends on your age, sex, and activity levels. So these recommended serves help us ensure that we're getting enough nutrients for our body. Factors that can affect physical and mental performance. So skipping meals, poor nutrient snacks, and these are typically foods high in sugar, saturated fats, and salt. Fast food or takeaway foods, again, due to the high sugar, fat, and salt content. Full sugar soft drinks, and also dieting and restrictions. On the flip side, how to improve physical and mental health. We want to aim to have at least 3 meals a day to ensure that we're fueling our body and brain throughout the day. Trying to aim to eat more home-cooked meals, of course, our 2 and 5, and eating a variety of plant-based foods. Moving on to energy. So we get energy from food and drinks, and this energy fuels our body. It's measured in kilojoules or calories. Fats, carbohydrates, proteins, and alcohol all provide energy, and some of these also contain vitamins and minerals. So your energy requirements, they vary with age, gender, body size, activity level, and your requirements may also change from day to day. So similar to your phone battery, some days you'll need more charging depending on how much you've used it. Our body needs energy for breathing, sleeping, digesting food, physical activity, and our brain alone uses about 20% of our daily energy, even if you are just chilling out, watching Netflix, or doom scrolling of a night. Alcohol. So alcohol is often called empty calories. So although it does provide us with energy, it doesn't offer us any nutritional value such as vitamins, minerals, or protein. Alcohol contains about 7 calories per gram. So in Australia, a typical standard drink is about 10 grams of alcohol. So this equates to about 70 calories. Now, this is for the alcohol only. If you consume a drink like a cocktail or a beer, they will also contain additional calories due to the additional carbohydrates. So, unfortunately, even if you are drinking your vodka, lime, and soda, your drink does still contain calories. Moving on to our macronutrients. So, we have our proteins, carbohydrates, and healthy fats. Starting off with proteins, these are our repair and build foods. And these predominantly come from meat or dairy products, but there's also plenty of plant-based products as well that are high in protein. And we really want to aim to choose low-fat or lean varieties. So things like low-fat milk, low-fat yogurt, lean mince, choosing a chicken breast over a chicken thigh. So protein not only helps our muscles repair and grow, but helps us keep full as well. Carbohydrates. So these are our fuel foods. Carbs are actually our body's main source of energy. And if you've ever wondered why you see the NRL or AFL players drinking Powerade during games, that's because sports drinks contain these quick carbohydrates to provide them with energy to last throughout the game. So carbs are absolutely critical for athletes, but still super important for the everyday person. And our healthy fats. So these are our protection, essential for creating hormones. They protect our organs and joints, and they can also help reduce cholesterol. So maybe your doctor's mentioned that you have high cholesterol after a recent blood test. Increasing your healthy fats is one way to try and reduce this. Protein sources. So on the left, we have a recommended serving size for protein. So as you can see, it's about the size of your palm. And as mentioned, protein can be animal or plant-based, and really good to try and incorporate into every meal. So this could look like having eggs for breakfast, maybe a chicken salad sandwich instead of just a salad sandwich for lunch, or like a tofu curry for dinner. We've also got some legumes and lentils there. And as mentioned, low-fat dairy can also be a good source of protein. Carbohydrates, again, we have our serving size. So this one's probably a little bit bigger. It's about the size of your fist. And for carbohydrates, we really want to try and aim for whole grain products. So whole grain breads and wraps, brown rice, wholemeal pasta, even things like oats and bananas and potatoes, all the good stuff are classed as our carbohydrates. And our healthy fats. So as you can see, it's the size of the top of your thumb. And it's significantly smaller than our carbs and proteins, but this is because healthy fats have a higher kilojoule or calorie value. So it's actually just more than double compared to our carbs and proteins, hence why we need a smaller amount. Really good to include healthy fats in each meal across your day. So this could look like including your extra virgin olive oil instead of cooking with butter. adding avocado instead of full fat mayo. So we really want to try and increase our healthy fats and reduce our intake of our unhealthy fats. So this is our fried foods, our butter, pastries, cakes, all that kind of thing. And of course, our color. So these are our fruits and vegetables. As you can see on the left, the recommended serving size for fruits and veggies is a lot bigger. And this is typically due to fruits and veggies having a lower kilojoule value compared to our other macronutrients. High in antioxidants, great source of fiber, so that also helps us keep fuller for longer as well. And of course, supports a healthy immune system. Now, frozen fruit and veg can be a great option. They're generally quite accessible, typically a lot cheaper than our fresh versions, but they actually contain the same nutrient value as our fresh version of fruit and veg. There's something to keep in mind next time you go to the supermarket and the punnet of raspberries are $8 a punnet, but you can get a full bag frozen for a kilo for $8. They have the exact same nutrient value, just typically a lot cheaper. So let's reflect on your lunch today. Did your lunch meet our 4 criteria? Did it contain a source of protein, carbohydrates, healthy fats, and color? If not, what was it missing? And what could we include in tomorrow's lunch to ensure that we're hitting our 4 targets? Some easy lunch ideas. So maybe you need to make a simple lunch to take into the office. A yogurt bowl could be the way to go with some high protein yogurt, some granola, mixed berries, and chia seeds. And we all have those nights where you just cannot be bothered cooking. Maybe a roast chicken in a bag, also known as a bachelor's handbag. A whole grain wrap with a mixed bag salad and avocado might be the way to go. So our food and meals don't have to be complex or time-consuming to be nutritious. And there are plenty of content creators online who provide cost-friendly and quick meal ideas. One of my personal favorites is Dietitian Rose on Instagram. She's always come out with fantastic meal prep ideas, and it's like under an hour for the whole week, which is right up my alley. So vitamins and minerals. They don't provide us with energy, but they are essential for various bodily functions. So each vitamin and mineral has a different function, but it also has its own recommended daily intake. So we're going to briefly touch on some vitamins and minerals that work together, such as vitamin D and calcium, and iron and vitamin C. Starting it off with our vitamin D. So vitamin D assists in the small intestine to absorb calcium. It also helps maintain a healthy immune system, healthy skin, and muscle strength. So do I have anyone that maybe resides in Melbourne, Sydney, Hobart, Tasmania? So as you can see in the graphic, it advises how much sunlight an average person should get depending on your location around Australia. So if you do live in Southern Australia, it's recommended to get 10% of your skin exposed for 1 hour in the middle of the day, 4 times a week. So this might not be achievable, especially if you do work indoors Monday to Friday. So maybe we can aim to eat your lunch outside or utilize your weekends and spend some extra time out in the sun. Fortunately, if you live in Northern Australia, it's a little bit less. So you're actually only required between 5 and 10 minutes, 4 times a week. Now, this is the recommendations for winter. As the seasons change, so do the recommendations. So something to be mindful of. But very few foods actually contain vitamin D. The best sources of vitamin D are margarine. So in Australia, margarine is actually fortified with vitamin D, and that is mandated. So if you're a margarine eater, maybe next time have a look at the bottom of the packet. It should have that it's had vitamin D added in. Eggs and salmon can also be a good source, and fortified milk. But if you feel like conducting a science experiment, mushrooms exposed to sunlight can produce vitamin D. So putting just those button mushrooms out in the sun for between 15 to 30 minutes can significantly increase their vitamin D content. Calcium. So calcium's required for our skeleton, and majority of that is stored in our teeth and bones. Low intakes of calcium have been associated with low bone density, which can cause soft bones and often results in bone fractures. So when I was working for the NRL team, we always had a fridge stocked full of yogurts, milks, cheeses, cereals to ensure that they're meeting their calcium needs. Because as mentioned, low calcium can cause bone fractures. So absolutely critical for athletes to pay attention to their calcium intake. But it's also really important to prioritize calcium as you get older due to the increased risk of falls. Low-fat dairy products have just as much calcium and sometimes even more than our regular varieties. So we would always recommend to consume a low-fat dairy product over a full-fat. And as you can see, the daily requirement for Australian adults ranges between 1,000 and 1,300 milligrams per day. So what does this look like? I've done a bit of an example day on the plate for what 1,000 milligrams of calcium looks like. So for breakfast, we've got some Cheerios, a cup of milk, and some chia seeds. And dinner, we've got a tofu stir fry, ensuring that that tofu is set with calcium, a cup of brown rice, and some broccoli as well. What if I'm lactose intolerant? So maybe you or someone you know is lactose intolerant, but you still want to meet your calcium requirements. Fortunately, there are plenty of lactose-free or plant-based options on the market. We just want to ensure that they've actually had calcium added to them. Most people with lactose intolerance can tolerate up to 3 grams of lactose with minimal symptoms. So as you can see, a glass of milk contains about 12 grams of lactose per cup. However, our tasty and hard cheese actually only contain 0.1 grams of lactose per serving size. So every individual's tolerance is going to be very different, but just could be worth trialing out. Start on the cheese and maybe work your way up to see what your tolerance is. And just be mindful that lactose contents do differ between brands as well. Moving on to iron. So iron deficiency is about 3 times more common in female athletes than males. And this is due to their higher daily requirement. So men only require 8 milligrams per day, where women of menstruating age require 18 milligrams per day. So more than double. And iron's really essential for getting oxygen to our cells, and low iron levels can impact performance, but if not treated early, low iron can lead to iron deficiency anemia as well. So as you can see, we have some non-heme or plant-based options such as wheat bix, tofu, wholemeal breads, and these contain about 2.5 to 3 milligrams of iron per serving. But most of us, when we think about a food high in iron, we think about a piece of steak, right? So if you fall within that 19 to 50-year-old age group and you consume a typical 200-gram steak, this is only 6 milligrams of your 18 milligrams required of iron for the day. So still pretty low, unfortunately. And it can be really difficult to consume enough iron every single day. Not all iron in food is absorbed equally. Our heme products, so our animal-based products, are better absorbed than our plant-based products. And this is why vegetarians and vegans require 2 times the daily requirement. So what does 18 milligrams of iron look like? So here I've done a bit of a day on the plate, a mix of animal and plant-based products. We've got some breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and of course dessert. And this equates to 18 milligrams. So you can see at breakfast, most of our iron comes between the egg and the toast. Lunch, most of that really comes from the beef. Move on to dinner, coming from the tofu, and then even dark chocolate, which I absolutely love, has a little bit of iron. So we lose iron predominantly through blood, especially during your period. And we have these things called iron blockers. So these interfere with iron absorption. Things like tea, coffee, even some medications can be classed as iron blockers. So to get the most from your food, we want to avoid tea and coffee for around 2 hours around your iron-rich meals. Then we have iron enhancers. So consuming vitamin C alongside iron can assist with iron absorption, which increases the amount of iron our bodies consume from that iron-rich food. Symptoms to watch out for: if you're feeling really tired, sluggish, maybe you're catching more colds, especially in the colder months, you might be low on iron. It could be worth having a chat to your doctor. Coffee, now everyone's favorite topic. Good news, coffee can be a part of a healthy diet. It is a good source of antioxidants, and for many people it can improve focus, mood, physical performance, but like anything, it is all about a balance. When coffee becomes a problem, it's when we're relying on it to replace sleep, skipping meals, loading up with sugar, syrups. Caffeine can affect people very differently. So some people feel absolutely fine, and then other people feel really jittery, anxious, experience poor sleep. If that is the case, it could be worth adjusting the timing or just cutting back your intake or consuming decaf. So it's actually recommended to stop consuming caffeine between 9 and 12 hours before your planned bedtime, as caffeine can have an impact on your sleep quality and quantity. In 2023, systematic review found that caffeine consumption reduced total sleep by 45 minutes and sleep efficiency by 7%. So if you go to bed around 9 p.m., it's recommended to stop consuming any caffeine around midday to try and mitigate these effects. And our pyramid of nutrition priorities. So at the very base, we have our energy balance. This is all about the energy that you consume through food and drinks, and then the energy that you burn through daily activity. Whether your goal is fat loss, muscle gain, or performance, getting this balance right is really important. Moving up, we have our macronutrients, so our proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Proteins supports our muscle repair. Carbohydrates are our energy source, and fats are essential for hormones and overall health. Next up, we have our micronutrients, so our vitamins and minerals. Now, they don't provide us with energy, but they do help keeping our bodies running and running smoothly. And can be really important to focus on micronutrients, especially in winter when there's more cold and flus going around, trying to avoid the sickness due to their high antioxidant nutrient timing. So this involves when you eat, such as pre or post-workout meals, or spacing protein throughout the day. Look, it's not essential for everyone, but it can be really important for athletes, especially if you're a professional athlete. And finally, at the top, we have our supplements. This is exactly what it sounds like, a supplement to your diet and not a replacement. So when the rest of your nutrition is in place, supplements may help fill small gaps or support performance, but they're never a good substitute for good food. So like any structure, we really want to work our way from the bottom up to the top. In summary, we want to aim to have protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and of course, color in every meal. Get out in the sunshine. we're going to try and aim to eat iron and vitamin rich foods together. And don't forget that your lunch and dinners don't have to be complicated to be nutritious. Well, thank you all, everyone, for listening. I hope that everyone learned something new from today's presentation, and I will now hand back to Peter.
Thanks so much, Isobella. That overview was wonderful. I'll stick, if anyone's got a question, please put it in the chat function, or maybe raise your hand if you would like to go off mute. I think if that's a function, but anyway, or just type if you'd like to unmute, and we'll enable that. My question is, so I like that pyramid of nutrition priorities.
Yeah.
And your comment about the timing and about it being mostly important for athletes, because I know it's discussed a lot about, and from my review of things, it's like, oh, don't eat such and such for breakfast, don't eat carbohydrates for breakfast, should be having more protein, for example. But anyway, I agree, and it was good to see the pyramid about the timing and it being more so for athletes. But my question is also about athletes, and the biggest thing that I'm seeing at the moment, particularly with kids' sports, is the fruit, like the oranges are coming out. But then after the game, and even between the games sometimes actually, during the breaks, is the snakes, the lollies come out. And I'm always like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And I'd like to think that that's still probably not appropriate. However, so your comment on that would be great, firstly. But secondly, I'm now seeing, particularly in AFL, because I'm a big AFL fan, I think they're given little cups of jelly snakes. So I'm like, oh, so yeah, for kids, would you agree with me or disagree that it's probably not needed in sport?
Look, it's probably not needed, no.
Yeah.
Especially if they're playing, under 9 soccer on
yes.
the morning. They're not at that professional level yet. But like, it's not going to hurt either. So the reason why that they give lollies or jelly snakes to athletes or at halftime is to give the people quick carbohydrates, so quick sugars pretty well, to give them energy to last throughout the game. So that would be the reasoning for the youngsters, but also why you see them have jelly snakes or gels, Powerades, Gatorades, anything like that, all has those quick carbohydrates, and it just kind of helps them fuel for the rest of the game, especially when you're at that high level.
Okay, so you work with did you say the Dolphins?
Dolphins, yeah.
And that's rugby. Is that
it is
NRL?
rugby, yeah, NRL.
Okay,
yep.
Pardon my ignorance. Okay, so that they're given out during the games there. Am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's personal preference. Some people love lollies, some prefer just like a fluid, some don't have anything at all, some prefer bananas. Like it's up to what the gut can tolerate, really, especially in that high intensity sport.
Okay, thank you for that. Sandra, I'll read out your question. What does Isobella think of whey-based powders for muscle building, young men and athletes?
Yeah. So look, it can be really good. Again, it's a supplement. So protein powder is a supplement. It can be really good to fill any gaps. For example, if you had quite high protein requirements, maybe you were an athlete or looking to gain a lot of muscle, and you just can't kind of get to that point through food, and you want to just top it up. Great. There's no risks really associated with protein powders. But would I advise them over food? Probably not. We're always a food first kind of, nutrition. So always food first, but look, they can be really beneficial and cost effective, like convenient. So they definitely have its place.
Sandra says that her son is a weightlifter.
It's pretty common they probably have quite high protein requirements, I would assume. So it could be really beneficial. And as I said, super convenient. Like you can't really be having a bunging out on a chicken breast at the gym, but you can protein powder is a bit more socially acceptable.
Tammy says, thank you for a great summary and presentations, and also a comment.
Thank you.
No other questions have come up, but if they still may come through, but we've got another question about influencers, and I've noticed some things pop up and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And just I guess the confusion, and yeah, how do we, so I guess as nutrition or teachers and nutrition professionals, we'll just keep doing what we do. And yeah, I don't know your view on what we see on social media, and yeah, if you anything that you know that's going on, and how to counteract some of those things.
Yeah, it can be really difficult because nutrition on social media is so saturated, and unfortunately a lot of these people aren't actually qualified. They're also talking from personal experience or how it's helped them, but that doesn't mean that's going to be best for you. Because as I said, even your energy requirements vary so much from day to day, let alone person to person. So my advice, if you are, looking at someone's Instagram or video or something, and if you're trying to evaluate whether to take that advice or not, I would try and go into their profile and see if they are qualified, whether they have a degree, whether it be dietetics, nutrition. And typically, if people have gone to uni, they're going to put that on their profile, right? They're going to try and promote that. And but the people that haven't are probably going to hide away and puts all other jargon in there instead. But yeah, it can be really difficult because there's just so much information and misinformation on the internet. But my advice would be to try and find some good dietitians or good qualified nutritionists. Just follow them. You can kind of usually rely on their information because they do have the degree. And yeah, there's some fantastic people out there that post amazing content, whether it be like recipe ideas or quick meal prep, or if you want to know more about sports or supplements, there's plenty of amazing dietitians and nutritionists.
Love it. That's great. I agree. Yeah. Look for the qualifications.
People are going to promote that, especially if they've been uni for that long.
Yeah. Okay. So Jen is asking, and it might be specific, so see how you go. How does intermittent fasting affect nutrient absorption and hormone regulation? Are you able to answer that query?
Vaguely. So look, your body's going to be able to absorb the nutrients. It shouldn't affect it too much. Hormone regulation, look, it's going to come down to how long you're fasting for. If you're going to just fast overnight and you maybe delay your breakfast by 2 hours, it's not really going to have much of an impact. But if you're fasting for maybe 16 hours a day and you've got a short 8-hour window, then maybe that will have a bit more impact on the hormone regulation. And so sorry, bit hard to answer without kind of delving really into it. Oh, sorry, I think you're on.
Hang on. Okay. Jen's got another question. Do non-sugar sweeteners like those used in Pepsi Max have any long-term risks?
Not in the research so far. Look, at the moment, they're pretty safe. And I think it was, I'm going to butcher the name, but aspartame, I think, is the one that kind of gets thrown about there a bit worrying. But unless you're consuming 33 cans of Pepsi or Coke or no sugar Coke a day, then you're going to be fine. And if you're consuming that much, then we've got another issue. But yeah, typically they're in because they're so sweet, they're in such minuscule amounts that it's not that, it's actually better than sugar, really. Sugars are higher in calories or kilojoules compared to these sweeteners, and they're really not going to have much of an impact on health.
Okay, Jen says thank you. Okay, no other questions have come through. I guess seeing your simple meal ideas, for me, that was great. Yeah, the roast chook, it's fabulous. Yeah, and you can still make a nutritious meal out of and quickly. So yeah, that person you followed, so a week's worth of meals in 1 hour.
Yeah, she posts, her name's Dietitian Rose on Instagram for anyone interested. But yeah, and they just look amazing, and they usually really tasty, really easy to make. There's she comes up with great recipe ideas, and
I'll check her out.
Yeah, would recommend.
Yeah. All right, Isobella. So next for you is your master's. So that'll lead you into being a dietitian. Is that correct?
Yeah, sports dietitian. So I'll be able to work with the elite athletes, which will be really exciting, especially with the Olympics coming up.
Okay.
Brisbane, so that'll be a goal of mine. But yeah, I found that I kind of finished my bachelor's degree and I wasn't quite finished yet, so I've come back to do the master's.
Good on you. Your presentation was wonderful, and there's a comment here that your slides. Yeah, I love how visual your slides are. I thought they were very effective. So
Oh,
well done.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's really good to
And
hear.
Sandra says, I love the suggestions for quick and easy meals incorporating quality, convenience, and ready to cook meals. Yes, thumbs up. Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's the quality, yeah, great. Quality convenience. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to slave away in the kitchen for 2 hours to make one dinner. Like, pick some stuff up from the grocery store on your way home. And yeah, good to go.
Yeah.
All the boxes.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be hard. Okay. That's so good, Isobella. Thank you. No more questions. So we'll leave everyone to enjoy their evening after this wonderful presentation. So thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.